100,000 years ago, at least 6 different species of humans walked the earth. Today, there's only one. Us. Homo sapiens. But here's the disturbing question. Why did we survive while all the others disappeared? We weren't the strongest. Neanderthals had bigger brains and more muscle. We weren't the first to use tools or fire. We weren't even particularly special, just another animal species struggling to survive in Africa, utterly insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Then, something changed. 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens underwent a cognitive revolution that transformed us from irrelevant apes into the rulers of planet Earth. Within a few thousand years, we had driven every other human species to extinction, colonized every continent, and begun reshaping the entire planet. But that's just the beginning of the story. Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens takes you on an epic journey through human history, revealing the 3 revolutions that made us who we are: the cognitive revolution that gave us imagination, the agricultural revolution that enslaved us to farming, and the scientific revolution that may turn us into gods. By the end of this video, you'll understand why humans dominate Earth, how we created religions and empires from pure fiction, why the agricultural revolution might be history's biggest fraud, and what the future holds for our species. This isn't just history. This is the story of how insignificant apes became the most powerful and destructive force on the planet. And it's the story of what we might become next. Let's begin at the beginning, when humans were nobody special. Chapter 1. The Cognitive Revolution 70,000 years ago. Something extraordinary happened inside the mind of Homo sapiens. We developed the ability to think in ways no animal had ever thought before. This is the cognitive revolution, and it changed everything. Before this revolution, humans were just another animal species. We lived in small bands, hunted and gathered, and had limited impact on our environment. We were not at the top of the food chain, we were in the middle, hunting small game and scavenging what larger predators left behind. Then suddenly, we developed something unprecedented, the ability to speak about things that don't exist. We gained imagination. Fiction, the capacity to believe in myths, gods, nations, and money, things that exist only in our collective imagination. This sounds abstract, but it's the most powerful force in human history. Here's why. Every other animal can communicate about things that exist. A monkey can say there's a lion, run. But only humans can say there's a guardian spirit that lives in that mountain, and if we sacrifice a goat, it will protect our tribe. This ability to create and believe in shared fictions allowed humans to cooperate in unprecedented numbers. Chimpanzees can cooperate in groups of maybe 50 because their cooperation is based on personal knowledge. Every chimp needs to personally know every other chimp in the group. But humans can cooperate in groups of thousands, millions, even billions, with complete strangers because we believe in the same fictions. Christians cooperate because they believe in God and heaven. Nations function because citizens believe in national identity. Capitalism works because we all believe in money and corporations. None of these things exist outside our collective imagination. You can't find God in nature. You can't touch a nation. Money is just paper or digital numbers. Corporations are pure legal fictions. But because we all believe in them, they have real power to shape our behavior and organize society. This is what separated Homo sapiens from every other species. Lions are stronger. Eagles have better eyes. Elephants have better memories. But no animal can mobilize thousands of strangers to cooperate toward common goals based on shared myths. That's our superpower. The cognitive revolution allowed us to form larger groups, develop complex languages, create art and religion, and most importantly, to innovate rapidly. Cultural evolution replaced biological evolution. Instead of waiting thousands of generations for genetic changes, humans could transform their societies in decades through new ideas and beliefs. Within a remarkably short time, just tens of thousands of years, Homo sapiens spread from Africa to Europe, Asia, Australia, and eventually the Americas. Everywhere we went, we drove other species to extinction. The megafauna, giant mammals that had thrived for millions of years, disappeared shortly after humans arrived. We didn't conquer the world through superior strength or biology. We conquered it through superior fiction, through stories that united us and allowed us to cooperate at scale. Chapter 2. The Agricultural Revolution 12,000 years ago. Humans made a decision that changed everything. We stopped wandering as hunter-gatherers and settled down to farm. History calls this progress. Harari calls it humanity's biggest mistake. The agricultural revolution seems like obvious advancement. Farming provides stable food supplies. It allows population growth. It creates civilization. But look closer at what actually happened to individual humans, and the picture is far darker. Hunter-gatherers worked about 3 to 4 hours per day to meet their needs. They had varied diets, dozens of different plants, nuts, and animals. They were generally healthy, with strong bones and teeth. Their lives had uncertainty, yes, but also freedom and diversity. Farmers worked from sunrise to sunset every single day. Their diets narrowed dramatically, primarily wheat, rice, or corn. Their health declined. Archaeological evidence shows farmers had more disease, worse teeth, shorter stature, and more skeletal problems than hunter-gatherers. So why did we farm? Because agriculture could feed more people per square mile. Not better fed people, more people. The agricultural revolution was a demographic explosion, not a lifestyle improvement. Here's the trap. Once farming started, there was no going back. Increased food supply led to population growth. More population required more farming. More farming required more work. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Cities required even more intensive agriculture. Humans became enslaved to wheat, rice, and corn. We think we domesticated plants. But from an evolutionary perspective, those plants domesticated us. They manipulated us into clearing forests, channeling water, and spreading their genes across the planet. Today, wheat covers more of Earth's surface than almost any other plant, not because it's particularly useful to wheat, but because we made it so successful. The agricultural revolution also created something entirely new: property, class hierarchy, and political structures. Hunter-gatherers owned almost nothing. They moved too frequently. Farmers accumulated possessions, land, and surplus food. This created wealth inequality. Those surpluses needed protection, which required armies. Armies needed organization, which required kings and governments. Governments needed to track property and taxation, which required writing and bureaucracy. Civilization emerged not from abundance, but from the problems agriculture created. And once you have wealth, you have inequality. Once you have inequality, you have conflict. Once you have conflict, you have war. The agricultural revolution didn't just change our diet, it changed the structure of human society forever. Most people today work longer hours, have more stress, and less freedom than hunter-gatherers had. We call this progress. But is it? We're trapped in a system that works brilliantly for spreading human genes. There are 8 billion of us now, but questionable for individual human happiness. This is the paradox of human history. What's good for the species isn't necessarily good for individual members of the species. The agricultural revolution succeeded evolutionarily while potentially failing individuals. We built a civilization that conquered the planet but enslaved ourselves in the process. Chapter 3. The unification of humankind. For most of history, humans lived in thousands of isolated communities. Each had its own language, gods, and customs. Then, gradually, through conquest and trade, these separate worlds began merging into a single global civilization. Three things drove this unification: money, empire, and religion. Money is the most universal and efficient system of mutual trust ever created. Before money, trade required double coincidence of wants. You needed to find someone who had what you wanted and wanted what you had. This limited economic growth. Money solved this by creating a universal medium of exchange. A shekel, a dollar, a bitcoin. These are all shared fictions that everyone agrees to value. Money's power isn't in the physical object, but in the collective belief. As long as everyone believes, money works. This makes money perhaps the most successful story humans ever told. More people believe in money than in God. More people trust money than trust their governments. Money is the ultimate shared fiction that connects strangers globally. Empires are the second unifying force. We often view empires as evil, and they committed terrible atrocities. But empires also unified diverse groups under common laws and systems. The Roman Empire, the Chinese dynasties, the Islamic caliphates, these merged hundreds of different cultures into shared civilizations. Most people today are products of empire. Your language, your laws, your culture, these probably trace back to some empire that conquered and unified diverse peoples. India's unity comes from British imperialism. Latin America's common language comes from Spanish conquest. Empire is brutal, but it's also one of history's primary unifying forces. Religion is the third unifier, but not in the way you might think. The truly influential religions weren't the ones promising salvation. They were the ones providing order. Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam spread not primarily through military conquest, but through the universal systems they offered. These religions weren't just about gods and afterlife. They provided legal codes, ethical systems, and social organization that could apply anywhere. A Buddhist merchant in China could do business with a Buddhist merchant in India because they shared assumptions about proper conduct. Religion created trust networks spanning continents. The surprising insight: the most successful ideologies aren't necessarily true. They're the ones that inspire cooperation. Capitalism isn't true in any scientific sense, but it organizes billions of people's behavior. Human rights aren't observable in nature, but belief in them transforms societies. Nationalism is pure fiction, but it motivates people to die for their country. Throughout history, the trend is clear: humans are unifying. From thousands of isolated bands to hundreds of kingdoms to dozens of nations to an increasingly interconnected global society. Trade networks span the planet. The internet connects billions. English becomes a global language. The same movies play in every country. We're not there yet. Conflicts and divisions remain. But the long arc of history bends toward unification. Money, empire, and religion started the process. Technology and globalization accelerated. The question isn't whether humanity will unify. The question is, around what story will we unify? What shared fiction will organize our global civilization? That remains to be written. Chapter 4. the scientific revolution 500 years ago, humanity embarked on its most transformative journey yet, the scientific revolution. This wasn't just about discovering new facts, it was about admitting ignorance and making that admission the foundation of progress. For most of history, humans believed the important questions were already answered. Religious texts, ancient wisdom, traditional knowledge, these supposedly contained all essential truths. When problems arose, you consulted authorities or sacred texts, not nature. The scientific revolution began with 3 words, I don't know. European scientists in the 16th century started admitting their ignorance and developing systematic methods to overcome it. This humble admission that we don't have all the answers became the most powerful force in human history. Science isn't just a body of knowledge. It's a method. Observe, hypothesize, test, revise. Accept only what evidence supports. Remain willing to overturn even cherished beliefs when data contradicts them. Authority doesn't determine truth. Observation and experimentation do. This methodology unleashed unprecedented progress. In 500 years, we went from arguing how many angels fit on a pin to splitting atoms and mapping genomes. We conquered diseases that killed billions. We extended human lifespan. We walked on the moon. We connected the entire planet through communication networks. But the scientific revolution wasn't inevitable or obvious. Why did it happen in Europe rather than China, India, or the Islamic world, civilizations that were previously more advanced? Harari argues it's because European empires admitted ignorance and saw exploration as discovery of unknown truths, not confirmation of existing knowledge. European explorers didn't just conquer. They mapped, documented, collected specimens, and recorded observations. They brought scientists on expeditions. They established research institutions. They saw knowledge as power, and power as requiring new knowledge. This created a feedback loop. Science enabled better technology enabled empire expansion funded more science. The British Navy didn't just conquer, it charted oceans, cataloged species, and advanced navigation. Scientific knowledge and imperial power reinforced each other. The most consequential alliance was between science, capitalism, and empire. These 3 forces merged into an engine of growth that transformed the planet. Capitalists funded scientific research expecting profitable returns. Scientists provided technologies that enhanced economic and military power. Empires provided resources and test grounds for new ideas. This alliance produced the modern world, with all its wonders and horrors. Medical advances save millions of lives. Industrial agriculture feeds billions. But the same scientific knowledge creates weapons of mass destruction, environmental catastrophe, and surveillance technologies. The scientific revolution's core promise was that progress is possible, that life can continually improve through knowledge. For most of history, people expected the future to resemble the past. Today, we expect the future to be dramatically different, hopefully better. That expectation itself transforms society. But here's the unsettling question. What happens when we gain the power to re-engineer life itself? The scientific revolution isn't over. We're now developing technologies to modify human biology, artificial intelligence, and genetic engineering. We're on the verge of becoming gods, with power to reshape life according to our desires. The question is no longer can we do this, but should we do this? And what do we want to become? Science gives us power, but it can't tell us how to use that power wisely. Chapter 5. The Capitalist Creed: Money Makes the World Go Round. But why do we believe in perpetual economic growth? Why does the global economy need to expand endlessly? The answer lies in capitalism's central story, and it's a story that reshaped human civilization. For most of history, the economic pie was fixed. If you wanted more, someone else got less. Wealth came from conquest or redistribution, not creation. Kings hoarded gold. Merchants hid profits. No one believed the total amount of wealth could significantly increase. Then capitalism introduced a revolutionary idea: the pie can grow. Through investment, innovation, and productivity gains, we can create new wealth that didn't exist before. This seems obvious now, but it was radical. This belief changed everything. Instead of hoarding resources, you could invest them, lend money expecting growth to generate returns. Instead of static economies, you could have dynamic expansion. Instead of zero-sum competition, you could have positive-sum cooperation. Credit became capitalism's magic wand. Banks lend money that doesn't yet exist, based on faith that future production will be greater than present production. Entrepreneurs borrow against future profits. Governments issue bonds expecting economic growth to cover debts. The entire system runs on collective belief that tomorrow will be wealthier than today. And for 500 years that belief proved correct, at least economically. Global GDP has grown exponentially. Technologies multiply productivity. Standards of living rise. The capitalist promise of growth has delivered material abundance unprecedented in human history. But this comes with costs. Capitalism prioritizes growth over everything else. A corporation's purpose is maximizing shareholder value, not worker welfare, environmental protection, or community benefit. Those might happen incidentally, but profit is the goal. This creates perverse outcomes. Companies destroy the environment for quarterly profits. Workers are pushed to exhaustion to meet growth targets. Resources are extracted unsustainably. Inequality increases because those with capital gain more from growth than those with only labor. Capitalism also created something strange: the expectation of perpetual growth on a finite planet. We act like Earth's resources are infinite and ecological systems infinitely resilient. But they're not. You can't have infinite growth on a finite planet. Eventually, something breaks. The religion of capitalism has core beliefs. Growth is good. Consumption drives growth. Therefore, consumption is good. We're trained from childhood to be consumers. Our identities merge with our purchases. Happiness is equated with material acquisition. But does capitalism actually make us happier? Studies show that beyond basic material security, additional wealth provides diminishing returns on happiness. Yet we continue pursuing growth as if it's an end in itself, not a means to other ends. Here's capitalism's central paradox. It's incredibly effective at generating wealth, but terrible at distributing it equitably or defining what wealth is for. We've become brilliant at the means while losing sight of the ends. The capitalist story says that free markets, private property, and profit maximization lead to optimal outcomes. But optimal for what? GDP growth? Yes. Technological innovation? Yes. Human happiness? Environmental sustainability? Social cohesion? Those are less clear. The question facing us now: can capitalism adapt to finite resources and ecological limits? Can we maintain prosperity without perpetual growth? Can we redefine progress as something other than GDP increase? Or will capitalism's growth imperative drive us to ecological collapse? These aren't just economic questions, they're existential ones. The story we tell about economics shapes the world we create. Chapter 6. The Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution didn't just change how we make things, it changed what humans are. We became cogs in vast impersonal systems, living by clock time, working in specialized roles, consuming mass-produced goods. The question is, did this make us better off? Before industrialization, most people were peasants living in small communities, doing varied work, following natural rhythms. After industrialization, most people became workers in factories and offices, doing repetitive specialized tasks following clock schedules. We gained material abundance. Products that would have been luxury for kings became available to common people. We gained longer lifespans through better medicine and nutrition. We gained technologies that eliminated back-breaking labor. But we lost community. Modern people live among strangers. We lost meaningful work. Most jobs are specialized fragments of larger processes we don't control or fully understand. We lost connection to nature and natural rhythm. We lost extended family and village support structures. The Industrial Revolution created what Harari calls imagined communities. We belong to nations, companies, and organizations made of thousands or millions of people we'll never meet. Our social bonds are increasingly with fictional entities rather than actual people. Take the modern nuclear family, just parents and children. For most of history, humans lived in extended families and tribes of dozens or hundreds. Today we're told a married couple can meet all each other's needs and two parents can raise children alone. This is historically bizarre and psychologically demanding. Or consider work. For most of history, work was varied. A peasant did different tasks seasonally and daily. Today, work is specialized. You might spend your entire career doing one narrow function. This increases efficiency but decreases meaning. The Industrial Revolution also restructured time. Before clocks became universal, people worked according to tasks and seasons. You worked until the job was done, then you rested. Today we work according to schedules. You clock in, work 8 hours regardless of whether there's meaningful work, clock out. This created constant time pressure. We're always rushing, always behind schedule, always feeling like there's not enough time, even though we have time-saving technologies our ancestors couldn't imagine. Why? Because industrial capitalism demands constant productivity. The promise was that machines would free us from labor. Instead, machines enabled us to produce more, which created demand for more production, which required more work. The hamster wheel spins faster, but we're still on it. Modern education reflects industrial needs. Schools train workers, not thinkers. Sit in rows, follow instructions, memorize information, take standardized tests, receive grades. This prepares students for factory or office work, following orders, meeting deadlines, accepting hierarchy. We're told this is progress. And by certain metrics, GDP, life expectancy, material possessions, it is. But by other metrics, happiness, mental health, sense of meaning, community connection, it's questionable. The Industrial Revolution made humanity collectively powerful, but individuals increasingly powerless. We can split atoms and explore space, but individual humans feel small, replaceable, and controlled by vast systems we don't understand or control. The question is, what happens next? Are we moving toward a post-industrial society that restores meaning, community, and autonomy? Or are we deepening industrial logic, more specialization, more standardization, more control? The answer isn't determined. We're writing it right now through the choices we make about technology, work, and what we value. Chapter 7. The Future of Sapiens. We stand at an unprecedented moment in human history. For 4 billion years, life evolved through natural selection. Now humans are gaining the power to direct evolution, to design organisms, including ourselves, according to our desires. What happens when we become gods? 3 developments are converging. biological engineering, cyborg engineering, and non-organic engineering. Together, these might produce the biggest revolution since life itself began. Biological engineering means manipulating DNA directly. We can already cure genetic diseases, select embryos with desired traits, and create genetically modified organisms. Soon we might design babies with enhanced intelligence, strength, or beauty. We could eliminate suffering, extend lifespans indefinitely, or create entirely new life forms. Cyborg engineering means merging humans with machines. We already have cochlear implants, artificial hearts, and brain-computer interfaces in early stages. Eventually, we might have memory chips implanted in our brains, bodies enhanced with mechanical parts, and consciousness uploaded to computers. Non-organic engineering means creating completely non-biological intelligence. Artificial intelligence is advancing rapidly. We might soon create AI that surpasses human intelligence in every domain. At that point, humans might become obsolete, or we might merge with AI to transcend biological limitations. These aren't science fiction, they're emerging realities. The question isn't whether these technologies will develop, but how we'll use them and who will control them. This creates profound ethical dilemmas. If we can design babies, what traits should we select? Intelligence? Health? Beauty? Obedience? Who decides? If enhancements are expensive, will we create a biological caste system with enhanced humans and unenhanced humans becoming separate species? If we extend lifespans dramatically, who gets to live forever? If it's only the rich, inequality becomes not just economic but temporal. Some people get centuries while others get decades. How would society function if people lived 200 years? If we create artificial superintelligence, how do we ensure it aligns with human values? What if AI decides humans are irrelevant? What if enhanced humans decide unenhanced humans are inferior? What if these technologies destroy what makes us human? Harari argues we're unprepared for these questions. We have technological power increasing exponentially, but wisdom increasing much slower. We can manipulate genes before we understand consciousness. We build AI before we define intelligence. We pursue power without clarity about purpose. The deeper question, what do we want to become? For all of history, humans couldn't fundamentally change human nature. We were stuck with the bodies and minds evolution gave us. Now we're about to transcend those limitations. But transcend toward what? Do we want to eliminate suffering? That sounds good, but suffering gives meaning to joy. Do we want to maximize happiness? That sounds good, but what if we discover happiness is just certain neurochemicals which we can produce artificially? Do we want immortality? That sounds good, but would life have meaning without death? We might create paradise, or we might create dystopia. We might enhance humanity, or we might destroy what makes us human. We might spread life throughout the universe, or we might cause our own extinction. The power is becoming ours, but the wisdom to use it wisely is uncertain. Perhaps the most important question is, who decides? Will it be democratic, with humanity collectively choosing our direction? Will it be oligarchic, with the wealthy and powerful deciding for everyone? Will it be technocratic, with scientists and engineers determining our future? Will it be random, with no one truly in control? Harari doesn't provide answers. He says we need to urgently begin these conversations. The future isn't predetermined. We're writing it now through research priorities, investment decisions, and ethical frameworks we establish today. Chapter 8. Finding meaning in a meaningless universe, here's the most uncomfortable truth in Sapiens: there is no inherent meaning to human existence. We're not special in cosmic terms. The universe doesn't care about us. All our grand narratives, religions, ideologies, values are fictions we created. This sounds nihilistic, but Harari argues it's liberating. If meaning isn't given, then meaning is chosen. We're not bound by divine commands or natural laws. We can author our own story. For most of history, humans believed in external sources of meaning. God gave commandments. Nature established order. Traditions provided answers. You discovered your purpose. You didn't create it. Science has systematically dismantled these external foundations. There is no God in the scientific worldview, at least not one who intervenes in human affairs. There is no inherent purpose to evolution. It's just random mutation and selection. There are no natural laws saying humans should behave certain ways. This creates what Harari calls the great decoupling, the separation between intelligence and consciousness. We're developing artificial intelligence without consciousness. We might soon create entities more intelligent than us, but lacking subjective experience. What does that mean for the value of consciousness? If intelligence is what matters, humans might become obsolete. But if consciousness is what matters, the capacity for joy, suffering, love, beauty, then even superintelligent AI might be inferior to conscious being. The question is, what do we value? Harari suggests that the dominant religion of the 21st century isn't Christianity or Islam, it's dataism. This is the belief that the universe consists of data flows, and that maximizing data processing and freedom of information is the supreme good. From this perspective, you're valuable insofar as you contribute to data processing. Your thoughts, behaviors, and experiences are data points to be collected and analyzed. Your purpose is to stay connected to the data flow. Disconnection is the worst fate. This explains why we're glued to our phones, why we document everything on social media, why we fear missing out. We've internalized the data's creed that connection to the information flow is what gives life meaning. But is this actually meaningful? Does having 1,000 friends on social media create the same depth of connection as having 3 intimate friends? Does documenting every experience enhance the experience or diminish it? Does access to infinite information make us wiser or just more distracted? Harari doesn't tell you what should give your life meaning. He says that's your choice. But he warns against unconsciously adopting whatever story your culture sells. Question the narratives. Examine your assumptions. Don't let algorithms decide what you value. The challenge of our age is this: we have unprecedented power and freedom, but decreasing consensus about what to do with them. We can cure diseases, but can't agree on what health means. We can enhance intelligence, but can't define wisdom. We can extend life, but struggle to identify what makes life worth living. Perhaps this is the final insight of Sapiens. Knowing history doesn't tell you what to do, but it does free you from the tyranny of assuming the present is inevitable. Everything about modern life, nations, corporations, money, rights, these are all human creations. If we created them, we can change them. You are not bound by the past. You are not determined by your genes, your culture, or your circumstances. You are a conscious being with the capacity to reflect, choose, and create meaning. The question isn't what is the meaning of life. The question is, what meaning will you create in your life? And having read this far through human history, you now understand meaning is a story we tell, and we get to choose which story to believe. We've journeyed through 300,000 years of human history, from insignificant apes to the gods we're becoming. We've seen how the cognitive revolution gave us imagination and fiction, how the agricultural revolution enslaved us to farming, how money, empire, and religion unified humanity, how the scientific revolution gave us power without wisdom, how capitalism promised perpetual growth, how industrialization restructured human existence, and how we now stand at the threshold of transcending humanity itself. Harari's central insight is this: almost everything we take for granted is a human invention. Nations, corporations, money, rights, laws, these exist only because we collectively believe in them. They're fictions, but powerful fictions that organize billions of people's behavior. This is both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it means we're not as special as we thought. Empowering because it means we can rewrite the story. The future isn't fixed. We're authoring it right now through the choices we make and the fictions we choose to believe. The questions facing us are unprecedented. What should we do with the power to redesign life? How should we relate to artificial intelligence? What makes life meaningful in a world where traditional sources of meaning have collapsed? Who will we become? History doesn't answer these questions. It just shows us that humans are remarkably adaptable, incredibly creative, and sometimes dangerously short-sighted. We've survived and thrived by telling stories and cooperating around shared fictions. That same capability now gives us power that could either elevate us to undreamed heights or destroy us entirely. Your task isn't to know the right answers, it's to ask the right questions. What story do you believe? What meaning will you create? What kind of future do you want? These aren't abstract philosophical musings. These are the most practical questions you can ask, because they determine how you live. If this video expanded your perspective on human history and our possible futures, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges how you see the world. Drop a comment and tell me what surprised you most about our species' story. Remember, we are Homo sapiens. We are the species that tells stories and believes them into reality. The story of humanity isn't over. You're writing the next chapter right now. Choose your story wisely. The future depends on it.